Hey everyone, it's Blair here at Time Trades. Thanks for joining me this weekend. This is the weekly video for Saturday, May 28th. So I want to start by reviewing what we talked about last weekend, which was really focused on the potential for a reversal. And that was based on this medium pivot that happened on the 21st of May. And it shows up here as occurring on the May 23rd bar, because that's the first trading day after the medium pivot. We're looking at a 4-hour chart of the QQQs. And we actually first thought that we were going to get a bit of a continuation on Monday of this downtrend after monthly options expiration. That did not come to pass. And in hindsight, that was actually a pretty bullish sign. So instead of continuing down, we got a little bit of a pop up, and then we got a retest of this magic level here at 285. And then after that, on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we rattled off 3 green days in a row to finish our first green week in I think it was like 8 weeks or something crazy like that. So very, very strong week last week. A clear pivot in line with the call for a reversal. The only little glitch in the forecast was thinking that Monday would continue down when it did not. But that's okay. We got the big things right, which was really a significant reversal. So we got that. And looking ahead to next week, what do we see here? Well, I think the highlight here is a small pivot day coming up on June 2nd. So June 2nd is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that's a Thursday. And that also coincides with the peak of the Gann wave cycle. And I don't really have, I haven't really detected a strong pattern with respect to these yellow bar Gann wave peaks. You can see in the past here, they, I haven't seen a pattern, but who knows? Maybe they do end up becoming a bit of a pattern here when combined with the small pivot. So I'm actually relatively bullish as we head into next week. The next medium pivot is July 18th. In general, I'm going to default to bullish until then, but that doesn't mean that it's just going to be a straight line move up from now through to July 18th. The longer term trend is down. We can see here starting from between June 22nd and April 5th. This was another bullish medium pivot cycle. And you can see again, this was not a straight line up, right? It was very much a correction up and then continuing the downtrend and then retesting this key 322 level, and then a strong 2 weeks up into that last medium pivot. So I'm going to be very wary and nimble and anticipate lots of volatility and reversals here over the next few weeks. But I think ultimately this medium pivot here ends up being higher than where we are now. So that's the general expectation I've got going forward. It's very much a trader's market. This is a difficult environment to just buy and hold in. So I'm looking forward to this small pivot. I'm going to be trying to take some profits on the long side heading into this, and then maybe reset, hopefully at some lower prices into the next small pivot and play it like that. So let's go over to Time Trades and take a look at what we see in the probabilities here. So again, this is the Qs. And before we dive into this, I do want to mention I did make some changes to how we label the pivots and the percent days up and percent days down. Because a couple of weeks ago on this very same video, I mentioned how the crypto coins tend to have a lack of forecasts. They had very quiet probabilities of both up moves and down moves and pivots. So I did some work to address that over the last couple of days, and that work just went live last night. So this is the first set of forecasts that you're seeing that benefit from those improvements. And it improves not just crypto, but all of the stocks. And really what I did was change the way that pivots are identified in the historical price data set. And the second change I made was to how big moves up and big moves down are identified in the historical data set as well. So those two changes have combined to add more clarity to stocks and also more activity to crypto. So when we look at the cues, we can see the big event coming up is this pivot high on July 27th, which is about 9 days after that medium pivot on July 18th. July 18th also has a 2 standard deviation down day here. So there's kind of pretty close alignment here around this being a significant day. And I like the fact that this pivot high is coupled with some high probability down moves. And you can see the down moves kind of come in waves, and the probabilities increase as we move through the summer. So any sort of moves up here in the cues are going to be more like corrective rallies in what looks like a broader bear trend. That being said, it looks like we're clear for a corrective rally for the next week or so. We have a small pivot low on Monday, June 6th. So it looks like this week is actually pretty quiet in terms of probabilities. Monday may be a down day or a correction, but we'll see what happens. One of the things I found is that these low probability pivots are, it doesn't usually make a lot of sense to sort of base trading decisions on because they tend to be relatively unreliable, as a 13% probability would suggest. So that's the cues. Let's take a look at spiders. All right, so spiders, we've got some up probabilities here planned for the week. On Tuesday, the 31st, we've got a big down day though, actually. So that's something to be aware of. And maybe that will translate into a good sort of buying opportunity, because we can see here Wednesday, June 1st, we've got a big up day. And then, as we talked about already, on Thursday, June 2nd, we've got that small pivot day. So perhaps the spiders are giving us a better roadmap here on what to expect in the week. It would make sense to have a bit of a correction after that strong Friday. I think there's a lot of bulls that got a little scared over the last few weeks and might want to take some money off the table at some of these higher prices that we saw after the little rally. Okay, IWM. So the small caps are also showing a bit of a down day on Tuesday, June 1st. But then there's not much to speak of for the rest of the week. The following week, however, we've got a combination of down probabilities into a pivot low. So I really like to see this combination of probabilities of a move into a pivot, because these are generated from two completely separate machine learning models, and it's nice to see that level of alignment there. Okay, and we can take a look at the Dow. Dow has a pretty quiet forecast here. So Tuesday, May 31st, we've got 15% probability of 2 standard deviations down, and then really not much to speak of for the rest of the week. The following week is also very quiet. We've got a pivot low June 20th, and then that's moving into a pivot high July 11th. And again, just as a reminder, we've got that medium pivot day around July 18th. So that doesn't look out of place there at all. Okay, so let's move on to some of the major tech stocks that are components of the Qs. Apple has in the forecast what looks like a bit of a continuation of the strong finish to the week last week. So Tuesday, we've got the lowest probability of an up day at 21%, and then Wednesday's 28%, and Thursday's 35%. So maybe we get some a good buying opportunity here on Monday as we head into that small pivot on Wednesday. But again, this is very much a corrective rally within a larger bear trend. You can just see by all the activity on the decline swim lane up here, that's showing a predominant bias towards down moves as opposed to up moves. This big 2 standard deviation up move is the exception on June 17th. And that's also correlated with this pivot high here as well. So that's Apple. Let's take a look at Microsoft. Okay, Microsoft's kind of similar. We've got some up moves here, peaking at 49% on Friday, June 3rd. Not much on the downside, but then the downside probabilities return the week of June 27th with pretty much 2 solid weeks here. We've got June 27th heading into July 15th. That's more like 3 solid weeks of mostly down. So definitely something to be aware of with Microsoft. Okay, Google's got a pretty quiet forecast, very small probabilities really for the next couple of weeks. There's really not much to say here until we get into like June 27th, and then we see a cluster of down moves. Yeah, there's no super clear tradable pattern here based on what we see with Google's probabilities. Let's finish up with our tour of US tech with Amazon. Amazon, again, pretty quiet couple of weeks. We've got a big update June 3rd, so that's 25% probability of a 2 standard deviation move up. And that's heading into a 36% probability of a pivot high on Monday, June 6th. But then what really catches my eye here is this pivot high on June 30th, combined with a big cluster of 2 standard deviation down days for about 2 weeks heading into July 18th. So this is something to be aware of with Amazon. This does look fairly bearish. So we do need to watch out for that and protect profits as we head into July. Okay, let's take a look at crypto. We've got Bitcoin, and this is taking advantage of the upgraded machine learning models that are generating a little bit more probabilities here on Bitcoin. So we've got some sporadic down moves here. It's not really a cluster, but we've got about 12% of 2 standard deviation down. This looks like Sunday the 29th. And then we've got Monday the 30th, a little bit of 2 standard deviation down, and then 78% probability of 1 standard deviation down on Tuesday the 31st. And then coming in later in the week, starting June 4th, we've got a nice little ramp of 1 standard deviation moves up heading into June 7th. So what I like about the price action right now in Bitcoin is it's stabilizing. This reminds me a lot of, what was it, summer of 2021, I think, where we had a similar, very quiet period. It lasted almost a month though, from like June 21st to July 20th. And then it just blasted off again. So I'm wondering if maybe we might be entering a period like this where it's sideways to small down, until it builds up enough energy to make another bull run again. Who knows, maybe that period could be over here starting around June 4th, June 5th, when we see this ramp of 1 standard deviation up days. Okay, let's take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum, for the next month or so, continues to have a bit of a bearish forecast because we've got these 2 clusters of 1 standard deviation moves down. The first one peaks at 86% on June 2nd, and the second one peaks at 84% on June 11th. And then after that, the bias switches over to the bullish side, where we've got a little cluster here of 1 standard deviation moves up. Okay, let's take a look at Indian stocks. So last week we talked about TCS, and last week's video was done right where my mouse is here on May 20th. So at the time I said, in a perfect world, it would bounce off the magic level at 3160 because it was kind of in no man's land here, right between these 2 orange lines. And sure enough, we did get that bounce with a big red day on Wednesday, came down, tagged 3160, got a little bounce off there. And we can see there's a little bit of a hollow here in the probabilities between May 26 and June 15th. So that's kind of roughly centered right here around June 3rd. So maybe that could be a good entry here in early June for another wave down in price. It looks like the bears are still in control at TCS, and we're going to see another wave down with a couple of different peaks. June 16th, June 29th, and July 20th are looks like all high potential days for big down moves in TCS. Let's look at GAIL. So last week in GAIL, I don't usually do a lot of technical analysis. There's a lot of great technicians on YouTube and Twitter, but last week was right here. So I said that this move up here looked like a bear flag to me, and sure enough, that turned out to be the right call as we got big red bars on Thursday and Friday. And it looks like we've got probabilities of more down days coming up with 56% probability on Monday and then 31% on Tuesday. So GAIL is looking like it's got more moves down to come, and especially after a move of this magnitude, it's not going to end here, right? It's going to end near a magic level somewhere. I don't know which one. There's a choice of 3 on the screen. Maybe it comes back down here to retest 128, but we've got this pivot low on June 9th, and that is nicely correlated with a big 77% probability of a 1 standard deviation down day. So let's be aware of that. Looks like this down move is going to end then. So we've got another couple weeks of down pressure on GAIL, but then we've got a nice cluster of up moves starting here in mid-June, and that's complemented by this pivot high. Okay, and last stock for the week, we're going to take a look at DABUR. With DABUR's forecast, with the changes that were made, we've got a lot more clarity now on this forecast. We've got this lovely cluster of 1 standard deviation moves up that are also increasing, and that's complemented by this pivot high on June 16th. So it looks like a good opportunity to get long early this week, take advantage of some of these 1 standard deviation move up days. So we could see it come down to this 461 magic level. I think that might be asking a bit too much. It's been quite stable here right at this 502 magic level. And remember the behavior, the price action when price goes through a magic level, because often it'll punch up through it and then come back for a retest, and then it'll take off. So if you're a little bit more conservative, I would suggest waiting for that retest because often that first move up through a magic level gets sold off and then retests, and then we can go. So you can play it like that, or you can anticipate the whole move happening soon and get in now, depending on your risk tolerance. Okay, so that's it for me. Thanks for joining me this week. Good luck this week trading, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye now.